Hello everybody. Today we are doing this strategy video. This is primarily to focus on our final and term exams, which is basically heading, or you can say it's an annual exam. So that maximum number of students they can pay attention in last couple of weeks we are left with, and what are the exact strategy they can implement on their own. Maybe they can take some time off and they can implement this strategy on daily basis. So we'll go deep down in this video. What are those strategy and how it's going to be helpful? This is the last minute preparation time, and how is it going to be beneficial for those who are in also writing their board exams? So we'll go everything bit by bit. Let's get started. So first of all, if you have been already preparing for throughout the year, for example, you had attempted your periodic tests well, you have attempted your half yearly or midterm test well, and then this is right now you are heading for your end term or maybe your annual exam. So having said that, because there are probably many changes probably you saw in your academics, maybe new books, new curriculum, and I can understand because in recent years there have been changes in the textbooks as well as academic syllabus pattern, so that could be challenging. But in a nutshell, if you have prepared well throughout the year, maybe you are regular in your school, regular with your classes, you are on a day-to-day basis, you have been doing some self-study at home. If this was the case, then probably you are at the right spot. But what about those who haven't, maintained this specific consistency throughout the year? So is there any chance for them? Short answer is yes. So I will go deep down. We'll see how it's going to be helpful for them as well. So first of all, if it is, for example, annual exam starting in mid of this month, and there are schools which are having their annual exam starting the end of this month, February. There are schools, those who are studying their annual exam in the next month, first week. So I'm going to take a in general approach for everybody. So whatever may be the timeline you have for your exams or the deadline you have to prepare. So keeping everything in your mind, you have to design accordingly. For example, let's say somebody is having exam in their next couple of weeks in the mid-February. If this is the case, how that student can prepare well. So very first thing, the number one is you have to take some time off from your schools. Now it can be really hard to digest for some of the parents or students, but this is, you have to understand that you have to come in terms with it, because there is something called reading period. If you do not utilize this reading period, which is primarily a couple of weeks before the exam, if you take this time off, this is really crucial, and it's going to be kind of game changer, because whether you make it or break it, it's going to be this specific time. It doesn't matter how much you have prepared throughout the year. Of course, that that really counts in, but again, then last couple of weeks, if you pay attention, if you go through the revision, if you have enough time to pay attention to your self-study, your notes, you have prepared everything, or maybe going revisions from the textbook, and so this is the time you have to put in. If you don't do that, and if you continue going to your school before the day of your exam, and I don't think so that's a good idea. It's not going to be helpful, because you just think logically, whatever your syllabus, I'm 100% sure your syllabus are done probably in your school. And what I know today, most of the students, they have their personal tuition. So if this is the case, probably your syllabus is already over in your home tuition or coaching tuition. So keeping that in mind, it doesn't make any sense for you to go to school just for the sake of completion of your syllabus. Rather, you can invest that time, the 6-7 hours every day you are spending in school. You can invest that time and You can take 4 and 5 hours in a day, and you can invest that 5 hours, the daytime, rather than spending in school. You can invest in your preparation. Now, how one should prepare for this final exam? That's a good question. So there are a few ways. Okay, I'm not saying there is only one way. So you pick the one which works for you. Okay, I'm giving you a couple of methods, strategy, you can say. So first thing is the core subjects you have, except mathematics. Other subjects you have, for example, you have English, you have social science, then you have even science, or you have also those other literature subjects. So those subjects, basically you have to read through them. Majority of the portion you have to read through them. So the primarily reading is must. You cannot skip it. If you skip, then it's going to be a really disaster. It doesn't matter you are a good reader or a bad one, then makes sense. You close the door, you start reading. If you haven't started already reading loudly, you have to read it loud enough, which is audible to your ears, and you can repeat the same thing, rinse and repeat for every other subject. Primarily, you can, for example, if you feel you do not have that much confidence in history, then you can start definitely reading your textbook, the NCERT textbook you have, or maybe any other textbook you have from provided by your school. You have to read that. Once you start reading loudly, then you will get most of the things which will get sink in your cognitive mind, which is going to be really helpful during the exam time, during the exam room. Next thing is paying equal amount of attention in the numerical related subjects, primarily physics and mathematics. So physics and mathematics, when I say these are basically numericals, that means you have to do it physically. You can't just read them, you have to do it. If this is the thing, you take out some time every day from your schedule. Maybe I will invest 1.5 hours or 2 hours for mathematics, and similar time maybe for physics, maybe for so you have to take based on your level. Also, if you are really struggling with mathematics, which most of the students they do, if this is the case, then you have to literally take minimum 2 hours of time and pay attention, go through your notes, class notes, and probably you're continuing your tuition core subjects which we mentioned about earlier, like English, social science, or maybe you're studying biology, or maybe your literature. So those subjects you have to really practice them. When I say practice them, that means you have to practice the long question answers. You must have an idea of the question patterns, what kind of question comes in your final annual exams. Okay, if you have no idea, you must get some previous year question paper, which is going to be really, really helpful, because it's going to give you an idea or pattern of what kind of question you may expect. All right. The next thing is I'm coming into the same sample paper. So you have to, once you are done with the revision of your entire syllabus by reading, and then by solving their exercises, or maybe going through the notes which you have received from your tuition, or maybe you're from school, go through them. Once you're done with them, the next thing is at least the minimum 1 week before your exam, you must be only practicing this sample paper. That this is must. You can say rule of thumb. I'm just showing my thumb right now. So you have to do it. I mean, religiously you have to do it. Last 1 week or 10 days minimum, you have to invest in sample paper solving. Okay, why I'm saying this? Why I'm emphasizing on this? There is a reason to it. Because once you have completed your entire syllabus, you're done with the revision. Now next thing is, now it's time to test where exactly I'm lacking. So you will be understand where you're lagging right now. So once you solve the sample paper, and then if you have a tuition teacher, go and show it to them. The teacher will check it out for you. If you don't have, then you can go through the solutions. You probably will find them on the internet, and you can go through the solutions, and then you can see where exactly you are making mistakes. If you're making mistakes on the long questions answers, So go through them, break, bit by bit, where exactly I missed. Maybe I missed in, the keywords I was not mentioning, or maybe I was not understanding the question first. Maybe these days statement-based questions are coming, which is sometimes turns out to be tricky for the students. So you have to read through the question again and again. If you do not understand this, read it a couple of more times and then get better understanding it before you even putting a pen on the paper, right? So here's a takeaway. Before answering the question, you make your roadmap. Read the question, invest 30 seconds or maybe a minute. So just make a plan and I'm going to answer this question. Make a plan. Don't just go and start randomly writing, because once you do this, you are just saving your time, you're saving your marks, and that's the strategy. Some students, they make mistakes in multiple choice question, which is supposed to be the easy one because you have been given the options. Sometimes they're in rush or out of excitement, I would say, so they make some silly mistakes. So you have to literally have to go really narrow down, pay attention, read the question properly, and then you're choosing the answer. One thing you must understand, or you can say takeaway, you are not competing with anybody. Okay, you are not competing, literally you're not competing with anybody when you are in the real exam. So there is no need to rush. Read the question properly. You have been given enough time by the schools, so you have to utilize the time. Read the options properly and then you choose. Another mistakes which I see students most of the time they're coming across, which is assertion and reasoning questions. So these assertions are basically, they're supposed to be basically checking your knowledge overall on a specific topic or a chapter. So if you have read that, so again, the reading is coming here, right? If you have done your reading part really well before doing the sample work, so you probably know these facts, and these assertions are basically a statement, right? And they are supported by some, again, reasoning statement. Maybe they are true or false, or maybe partially true, or maybe they are not satisfying the assertion. So you have to, again, if you have read the topic properly, then you will be able to understand. Sometimes students, they do not understand, or sometimes they may be in rush, they make silly mistakes and they just lose the mark. So you don't do this. Okay, these are the easy marks. The specifically the assertion questions, case-based questions, and then when you have multiple choice questions, so these are the questions, these are the low-hanging fruits. Okay, you cannot afford to make any mistakes in this case, because inevitably you'll be losing some marks in your long question answers, short question answers. It doesn't matter how well you develop your answer, you'll still lose some marks. Okay, so you don't do this. Other than this, if I talk about the literature grammar, specifically for English or any other literature you are dealing with, grammar is something which it has to be done once you have completed your literature part in the real exam. Then you come to the grammar and you do this, and then the writing portion. The writing portion, you have to do it. You have to practice. If you are really lacking in idea generation, for example, you have to write a paragraph. You are thinking about it for 10-15 minutes. That's not a good idea. You're not a good player. Right. Certainly you are not a good place if you are doing this. That's not a good idea. Ideally, when you are doing writing section, it's supposed to be done in 40 minutes or so, including your grammar. It's supposed to be done in 1 hour or so. Okay, the section B has to be done in 1 hour. Section C you have completed in 1 hour. All right, boom. So you're still left with 1 hour. So within this 1 hour, you can invest half an hour or let's say 40 minutes for doing those reading passages, section A. And once you are done, still you're left with 15-20 minutes, which is a mandatory. You must have this much reading time, because you're going to invest this time for proofreading. Go through your entire answer sheet and go through primarily for spelling check and for vocabulary and for grammar check. Okay, and sometimes maybe I've missed out some specific keywords in your answer. Once you go through them, you might get those ideas. So it's very important. By doing this, you can literally save 3 to 5 marks in each of your answer sheet. Okay, so you must do this. So these are the few things which I think they're going to be really, really helpful if you implement. This is the last minute preparation you are doing before your exam. Maybe you're left with a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks. I do not know. So based on this, you start implementing this, and it's going to be really, really game changer, like I mentioned, because it is not how much you prepare for throughout the year right now. It is the last, lap you are doing. This is here comes the strategy. First, do the revisions from your textbooks. Once it's done, then